All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming, all of you. Thank you. Today we have again Mr. Terry Butt and actually his partner Ali Youssef from the Royal LePage West Commercial Division. So today we're doing an introduction to the commercial real estate world here with the legends. So Terry put together some questions, and then we have a few more guests with us, other agents. So we have a few questions prepared for you, and then anybody else can just jump in and ask any additional questions if they have any. So I'll start, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are the advantages of the trade of the commercial real estate?
The advantages to trade?
Yeah, the advantages of like trading commercial real estate.
Well, if you list and sell any types of commercial real estate, whether it's retail, commercial, industrial, investment property, office, land, etc., the deals are considerably larger amount, sale price, and so there's a chance to make a fairly substantial commission if you successfully negotiate a deal.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So it's less paperwork for more money.
Well, you know, that's a good thing. From the paperwork standpoint, yes, to a certain extent, but if you have to put a package together for presentation to third-party agents, then there's a lot of work involved in preparing that documentation. It's just not sending out a copy of the TREB MLS listing. You have to have the backup material that supports what you have in the commercial listing.
Okay.
We also have to do that when you have a house for sale with 3 apartments in it. You have to prepare a package because you have to make sure they know how much the expenses are, and what the rent is, and all that.
So they can calculate their
And-
ROI.
And the more detail you have in the commercial package or listing information, the easier it is to explain it to a third-party agent or a potential buyer.
So experience is the key here.
It's just not the experience. Yeah, I've been doing this for 55 years, so I mean, I think I have a fairly good knowledge of commercial business. But to try and teach a residential agent about commercial, it's a whole different concept. You know, you got to think business. You're not thinking residential house or rental condo, or that's a big difference and a lot more involved.
Okay, next question. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
What are the commission rates for commercial real estate?
Well, okay, if you're talking an outright sale, all right, let's say it's you've got a retail store and an apartment for sale. The rates could go 2 to 4%. However, if you're dealing with some very, very large properties in the commercial side of real estate, commissions tend to be somewhere in the 2% range. Now, if you're doing retail or industrial leasing, then those commission rates are different.
And what would be the commission for?
Well, it all depends how big or small the property is. I mean, you can list a business for sale and have it for sale for $100,000, and the commission could be 10%, for example. In other retail commercial stuff, you can go anywhere from 2 to 5%, Ellie?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area.
Okay, great. B, you want to ask the third
Sure.
question? here?
What is the distribution of commercial agents versus residential agents?
Are you talking with the Toronto Real Estate Board, for example?
For example, yeah.
Probably 10% are commercial agents, max. compared to, what is it, 55,000 agents with the
I heard it was 80 now.
No, it's probably 100,000.
100,000 agents, maybe 10,000 are commercial agents. There may be some residential agents that think they're commercial agents because they have done one commercial deal. But when you look at the large commercial brokerage firms like CBRE or Colliers, Atlas and Young and a few others, they really are the top commercial guys in Treb.
Okay. And so there's tremendous opportunity for it.
Yeah, and then Royal LePage also has a commercial network, and they have roughly 600 agents that are part of Royal LePage Commercial, of which Ellie is. And that network goes across Canada, and listings are shared between those commercial agents coast to coast.
Alright, I'm going on.
Sure.
How does financing for commercial real estate differ from residential?
I would suggest to you that if you're acting on behalf of a sophisticated buyer in the commercial field, the buyer probably has his own financing available. However, I would think that probably 90% of the deals that are done in the commercial side are cash deals.
Cash?
Yep. It's not like with the first mortgage on a residential house sale.
Even for like multi-unit residential, like 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 apartments?
Yeah.
All cash?
I would suggest to you that the buyer would not be putting an offer in on that property unless he had the financing available to buy the property. If he's a sophisticated commercial buyer, whether it's a residential apartment building, for example, or a commercial retail plaza, or a high-rise rental apartment building. Most of the buyers that I've dealt with over the years have never worried about mortgage financing. They've looked after it on their own accord, whether it's through their own bank or a third-party lender.
But so what we're saying is that put the offer firm, but behind the scenes, they're actually working to obtain financing.
Yeah, a lot of the offers that I've had over the years on commercial properties have been, well, firm deal, but conditional upon inspection, getting all the income and expenses, et cetera, if it's a retail, commercial, or an industrial sale, yeah.
So funny enough, I just met with an accountant last week to do a job,
Mm-hmm.
and he manages money for a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So he bought a house in North York, and he wanted me to do some work there, and I looked it up, and the house is owned by a corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and he said like he got 4 or 5 guys, bought the house cash, and they set up a corporation just for that house.
Yeah.
So even for residential now, there's people doing that.
Yes, yeah,
And buying it cash.
I believe that, yeah. There's lots of money out there. It's just very quiet money behind the scenes. A lot of my commercial clients are sitting back waiting for a crash to happen because some of the properties that are out there that are listed for sale at, I wouldn't say ridiculous prices, but prices beyond the market value of the property. They're waiting to pick up power sales or foreclosures, and I noticed on Treb there's been a couple of land listings come through recently that are under power sale or foreclosure.
Part of it too is because with commercial, you're not dealing with, like in residential, you're dealing with individual people, and in commercial, things take longer to make decisions on.
Oh God, yes,
Right,
yes.
so then while they're, because things take longer, they're already getting all the financing in the background of that, so they already know what their financing is before they even go in, and even when they go in with an offer, it's already.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. 100%, I agree.
But the other thing, I think there is one bank that caters mostly to commercial, which is BCD, right?
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
That's one.
That's one of the.
But most of them have their own bankers, or they have private funds
Yeah.
available to them as well.
Yeah, yeah. And people who are in the loaning business, and they deal mostly with like commercial people. So it's a different kind of financing. But if you're dealing with someone who's just getting into commercial, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but is it true that if you go to the bank, let's say, just, you know, you're buying a multiplex, so like commercial building at the bottom and then a residential up at the top.
Yeah,
The financing for that is a different percentage than it is if you're buying a regular
yeah,
house.
Jeez, okay?
Right, Terry?
Yes.
So.
You may
do wanna-
you may only get 60% financing.
Exactly.
It depends what the cash flow is and the net return is on the capital you're investing, okay? So you gotta take all that into consideration before you can get financing. But in a case like that, if you have a sophisticated buyer that's in that business, it's a little different. If it's a first-time buyer.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That
Let's talk
wants to
about
get
some-
into that
Yeah.
business, I suggest you take them through the process of what they have to do. They should listen to a qualified commercial agent to explain to the potential buyer, you should have this available, you should have this financing. This property's got a 3% cap rate or a 5% cap rate, here's your return on your invested capital, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
Go from there.
yeah.
So
Because,
how difficult would it be for an average Joe that has a little bit of money to get started into a commercial?
Tough,
Tough.
yes, I wouldn't recommend it.
You would.
There's so much involved, unless you've got a good commercial agent, a good law firm acting on the buyer's behalf, a good accountant, and good banking, don't get in the business.
Fair enough.
yeah, because people go in sometimes thinking, oh, I'll just buy this and lease out the commercial space and rent out the upstairs, and then they don't realize, oh my gosh, I'm having difficulty getting a mortgage for this.
Exactly, well put.
I would say mixed use is still a little bit easier than like for one commercial. If you get one of those properties, like along the board or whatever, that you got the commercial at the bottom and then conduit to.
I agree with you to a certain extent, because commercial properties, retail, industrial, office, whatever, a lot easier to manage, okay, than retail ground floor and 3 apartments above, because you've got residential tenants, so now you're into all the government rules and regulations for leasing, etc., possession, how to get them out, etc., for non-payment of rent. You're either gonna be in the residential rental property business, or you're gonna be in the commercial business. Combining the two, if you're not sophisticated enough to understand the Landlord and Tenant Act, etc., etc., I don't know if I'd go be in that business.
The financing will be easier.
Now, if you're a qualified agent and you can take your buyer through the process beyond the sale and closing, and have them understand what is involved with residential rental leasing, okay, and the good, the bad, and the ugly about that, retail commercial is so much easier.
But financing through the banks will be easier, that's what I'm trying to say, like, than, let's say industrial property, right? Because that's mostly, you usually have one, level of commercial and then 2, 3,
Yes, yeah.
residential. I think banks will be a little easier to deal with it.
Well, they'll look at the retail tenant, who it is, you know, what it is, 5-year lease, et cetera, or it's only got a year left. Renewal, who knows if the tenant's gonna move out, the retail commercial tenant, the existing, if you're putting 3 new tenants into a building, or there are existing tenants in there that are residential tenants, you know, they should be under 1-year leases, et cetera, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Next question, I guess, Debbie, you have your glasses ready. You want to fire away?
Oh, how can a career in commercial real estate be pursued and what skills are necessary for success?
Wow, that's a biggie. When I started in the business 55 years ago, I was very fortunate that my dad was a very successful realtor in Port Credit, and he was in the commercial, industrial, as well as residential. So he taught me, all right? And I got to give him full marks because what I learned from him, working for him for about 4 or 5 years before he retired in the mid 70s, he was probably the top commercial real estate brokerage firm back in those days in Mississauga. Okay, so I learned from him. He would take me out to meetings to meet with his clients, and he'd say, "Terry, sit there and shut up. Don't say anything. Just listen," which is what I did. If you want to get into the commercial business, Ellie, you're a prime example because when you came on stream with me, I basically did the same thing that my dad did with me 50 years ago, and Ellie picked it up so fast because of his business background and his knowledge of real estate, and he's done a lot of commercial stuff in the last few months. So you really need
A mentor?
I don't know if I call myself a mentor, but somebody that has been in the business and understands the good, the bad, and the ugly about commercial real estate. Lots of people try to get into the commercial field, and if they don't have a business background of some nature, or don't have qualified people to talk to about the commercial real estate side, there are, of course, lots of courses you can take through TREB, etc. But the courses are one thing. Actually negotiating deals is a totally different situation. So you've got to have that business sense.
Jerry, let me ask you another question since you
Sure.
mentioned it. You've told me this before, I suppose you tell other people. When your dad was in real estate in Port Credit back in the 40s, and he
Late
was doing-
40s, early 50s, yeah.
Okay, he
Yeah,
was doing commercial.
yes.
There wasn't much to Mississauga back then.
No.
There was Cooksville.
Well, no, actually, there was the town of Port Credit, the town of Mississauga, and the town of Streetsville. And then in 1974, when Bill Davis and the Conservative government brought in regional government, the town of Port Credit disappeared, the town of Streetsville disappeared, the town of Mississauga disappeared, and it became the new city of Mississauga. So that's how Mississauga was formed as a city.
Okay.
That was January 1, 1974.
Okay, why don't you tell them how your dad used to buy up the land from the farms?
Oh, okay, well,
That's
I
interesting.
don't want to brag, but yes, you got to realize in Port Credit, there was lots of stores and commercial space all along Lakeshore Road from the Etobicoke border to towards the Oakville border, and there was some industrial just starting West Mississauga, out Royal Windsor Way, etc. So my dad, because his offices were located on Lakeshore Road, he got to know all the business people and who owned and who was renting, etc. So he did the sale of commercial, where there might have been a store and an apartment above, because that's all there was in the older days, before redevelopment happened in Port Credit and the high-rise buildings. And so my dad actually dealt with a lot of builder and developers who were just starting in business in the 50s and 60s. My dad started the Canifin business, Canif Construction, who ended up being one of the biggest high-rise builders in Mississauga. Back to your question, I don't know where to start.
You told me that he
Yeah.
bought up farms
Yeah, well,
and sold the land to people.
One of my dad's clients was a lawyer in Port Credit by the name of Bruce McLaughlin, a very sharp, astute guy. And Bruce and his investor partners wanted to develop the new area of Mississauga, which was basically Burmanthorpe and Highway 10, because it was all farmland. So Bruce asked my dad to go out and assemble 2,000 acres of land in the mid-50s at Burmanthorpe and Highway 10 that eventually became Square One in City Center. So my dad went out and bought farms from all the farmers up there, because there was cows at Burmanthorpe and Highway 10 back then.
Yeah.
So are you saying they had the vision that some sort of a
Yes.
commercial
Yeah.
mall was going to be put there?
Bruce McLaughlin had the vision. He was a brilliant lawyer and a great businessman. His company was called Mascan Corporation. and they actually rezoned all the lands around Square One and City Center and built Square One.
I remember when I used to drive from Sheridan College in Brampton up Highway 10 to go shopping at Square One from 401 South. That was all farmers' fields.
Yep.
And then it's all housing now.
Well, when I grew up in Port Credit, when I was 10, 12 years old, my buddy and I, we used to ride our bikes up Highway 10 to Dundas, and just east of Dundas on the north side was a horse farm, and we used to go horseback riding when I was 12 years old in downtown Cooksville as it is today. So that just shows you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And at that time, who was lending people money to purchase properties and businesses?
Insurance companies and private money.
Most of it was private money
Yeah.
back then. Yeah, unless you were doing single-family residential and you'd get it from your bank or a trust
So
company.
insurance companies were giving out money too?
You couldn't get a mortgage from a bank.
Not that much. Actually, there was a
Banks weren't doing mortgages.
There was a company, trust company in Mississauga, located at Highway 10 in Dundas, called Halton Peel Trust. And Halton Peel Trust were a trust company. They had, I think, 3 or 4 offices, and this is in the 60s, 70s. They eventually got bought out by Canada Trust, but they did a lot of lending locally to builders and developers, believe it or not, and they made a lot of money, very successful. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just,
So
thank you.
I'm just wondering where the insurance companies got the money.
Insurance companies have tons of money.
They built the country.
That's why.
You wouldn't have Canada without insurance companies.
Yeah, and now they can't even afford, you know, if you're in a flood zone to like, okay.
Well, that's
Well,
another
they
story.
can, they just don't want to pay that.
Yeah. Okay.
What are some of the trends, current trends and challenges in the industry?
Trends. Well, I think with the slowdown in the market that we've seen because of the high interest rates, retail commercial is still holding its own. The industrial marketplace is still fairly strong. However, the office marketplace, because people are working from their houses, there is over a 20% vacancy right now in the greater GTA. So I don't know how that is going to change. I don't think people are going to be coming back to their offices. So that's one of the things that's happened out there. There's a lot of vacant office space.
Do you think, I was watching the other day a documentary or a news report, I think it was Vice News, and they were talking about the model of San Francisco, that they had so many office spaces just went vacant that they decided to transform it into affordable housing. Do you think?
I think that's a great idea, and I think it's going to happen. You just got to convince the local municipality to go along with it, because the municipality get their realty taxes from the retail, commercial, industrial, and also the residential. But is it going to happen here? It'll take time. Going through the governmental processes here, as probably a lot of you know, it doesn't happen overnight.
And there's one big problem with that. One thing is the idea of affordable housing. The other thing is people don't know the cost to convert a commercial building into houses. It's really expensive.
Couldn't they make them into condos?
They could, but the problem is all the plumbing, electrical, everything's gotta be redone.
Yeah,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really
it's
expensive.
very expensive.
So to
Do
turn that
conversions,
into affordable housing, I don't know, but into condos, yes. As long as the price is right.
Depends on your definition of affordable housing is.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
affordable
no
housing.
affordable anymore.
Yeah, affordable housing is sort of a misnomer. You either have nonprofit housing or you have rental housing
Yeah.
market. Affordable housing, I don't know what it means.
Yeah. And the
I
other-
heard that they were gonna put condos in where Nordstrom's is at Sherway.
No
It's a
apartments,
Apartments, rentals?
Yeah,
Oh,
natural.
and same downtown at the Eaton Center.
Yeah. Yeah, there, I can tell you in Mississauga right now, because Ellie and I go on the City of Mississauga website and check the zonings, etc. And the province came out with an intensification 2 or 3 years ago, I think. And there's certain major streets in Mississauga, and I'm sure in Toronto as well, like Dundas, Highway number 10 here, Ontario, Dixie, etc. All approved now for intensification.
Which
So
means like more high-rise.
yes,
floor.
I would say there's probably 50 applications into the city of Mississauga right now for redevelopment on major highways in Mississauga
Right.
to go high-rise with 100 and 150 units per acre. Some of them would have retail, commercial on the ground floor, and then a bunch of condos above.
Yeah.
Do they have limitations in Mississauga like they do on Dundas? I remember Jim saying that if you didn't apply for your high rise before a certain year, like 2013 or something, you couldn't go high anymore. And do they have those kind of rules in Mississauga?
Yes, they have certain rules and regs as to coverage. In other words, if you've got 1 square foot of land, how many square feet of building can you build on the property, or how many units per acre, etc. Right now in Mississauga, you can build up to about 150 units per acre, okay?
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's
on-
like,
on major thoroughfares.
we just went to that project Tridel is launching at
Around the
Lakeshore.
corner here?
Village,
What is it called?
Lakeview Village.
Lakeview Village.
Oh, down there, the 7,000 plus units,
Where
yes.
is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
exactly again? Remind me.
It's
Uh,
Cake.
Lakeshore and Dixie?
Lake
Yeah,
Shore
sure.
and Dixie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the guys who was talking from Tridel was saying that the speed at which this region builds is so slow compared to San Francisco, Chicago, that they produce so many millions of square feet per year, and here we only produce like, a tenth of what they do over there.
Yes, that's very true, but unfortunately, all these rules and regulations have been put in place by, I don't care what municipality you go in Ontario, the bullshit, sorry to use that expression, that one has to go through as a landowner to try and get an approval to rezone. Well, you have to go through what they call an official plan amendment, which is provincial legislation. Then you have to go through the rezoning application, and the rezoning has to be made in conformity to the official plan. Then you have to go through all your building permit with your plans, specifications to get all those approvals. It's probably anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it just happened in Vancouver, and it's probably coming here too. I think Vancouver, Surrey, and Langley they're going to approve. They're not gonna give any more single-family residential permits. Everything's gotta be 2
Multi-family.
units or more.
That could be
For next
BC or
year.
Vancouver. That could be a City of Vancouver decision, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, for me, it's transportation. Like, I live just off of Bloor Street, and I remember when I first moved into the area, I could actually get off of my street onto Bloor. Now it takes me forever. It's like there's just cars after cars after cars after cars, and they're all coming like sort of from here, and we know there's more development. What's gonna happen like when they're gonna build even more? Like, it's like, what's going to
More
happen?
congestion is gonna
Like,
happen.
so much congestion, but
Yes,
then
I
you
agree.
have to deal with transportation.
It's not the
They
cars,
must have
the
a-
cars is not the problem.
Well, cars are a problem too.
It's the stoplights. You put them everywhere. With a little ridiculous city, you go 5 feet, you got a stoplight, you got 5 feet, you got a stoplight. No wonder you got congestion.
Please, you just got 1 million people last year. Most of them are gonna go to Toronto and Vancouver.
I've driven through Manhattan at the busiest time of the year, and it's fast for me to get across the city than it is to go to Brewer or York.
I believe it.
Well, you know what they should do, and I know that Jim told me about that the province approached Hazel McCallion years ago to extend the subway path over to Sherway and then over to Dixie Road, so the subway would go out to Mississauga, and she said no,
Correct.
and they need the subway going in.
Biggest
Mississauga.
mistake she ever made.
Yeah,
And then she got the LRT approved about 10 years ago before she retired, and up Highway number 10, which is total disaster. It's been under construction now for 2.5 years, another 2 years. Traffic in Mississauga, north and south, is absolutely disaster today.
Well,
and
no.
nobody's gonna ride it.
I'm from Mexico City, so this traffic is absolutely nothing. So try
Getting
getting
in
out
the
of
city.
try getting out of my neighborhood at 8 in the morning. So it's insane.
Anyway,
Question here: what time do we sign an NDA with a client?
What's an NDA?
Non-disclosure agreement.
our confidentiality agreement, give you an example. We have a listing up in Perry Sound, 6 Perry Sound, it's a redevelopment site. We put a complete package together, Ellie and myself, and we don't want to give the whole information package, which is what, 20, 30 pages, I guess? Out to a third-party realtor that's called on our TREB listing before they disclose who their clients are, okay? And that's the NDA. This is very common in commercial real estate, especially in land, where the listing agent wants to make sure that the selling agent, or the agent that wants the information, discloses who their client is, and that's very common today. So, and then large deals, whether it's the sale of an big industrial building or office building or retail commercial shopping center, you have to disclose and get the NDA signed by your client before you get a whole package from the listing agent.
And give us some reasons why that is, why they want the NDA filled out.
Well, they want to know who they're dealing with, and it's not some numbered company, for example.
A what company?
A numbered company.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 1, 2, 3.
They don't want to give the whole, they put a whole package together, they spend a lot of money putting the information on the listing, available with all the numbers and all the rest of the information that they have gleaned and put in the package for presentation to a third party. So they want the selling agent, who's acting on behalf of his potential buyer, to disclose who the buyer is. And I've signed many NDAs over the years, and my clients have too. It's very common, especially in larger deals, you know, when you're talking 5, 10 million, 20, 30, $50 million purchases.
And also to share the information, like, you know, the rent roll of the property, you know, the income, the expenses, you know, the net income. So this is why they ask for the NDA.
Yeah, they don't want that information going out to
Anybody?
non-qualified buyers,
Yeah.
I guess is the word I would use.
Yeah, so it's the listing brokerage or agent on the selling side, not on the buying side.
Correct,
Okay, cause
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
you meant, okay.
very common.
Yeah, cause it's private information, right?
It is, it's
How
not
much
public.
they're making.
Exactly,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
financial.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Sure,
say?
go ahead.
What are the different forms I might need for trades?
Oh, you're talking about, okay, well, you know, in the residential, you have to get forms signed by your seller when you're gonna go out and list a property for sale, correct? So, there are the forms, you've got them there, I think, Julio.
Yeah, I was working with a commercial realtor.
Yeah, anyway, you probably have,
And then I brought a few forms.
and these are in the office, and, you know, because of my eyesight, I can't go through them in detail, but I'm sure that Ellie can take you through the process of what has to be done. I'm sure my business partner, you can open that up. The bottom line is that if you haven't been in the commercial field, all right, then you should get help from your broker of record or whoever else has been dealing in the commercial field for some time. This is the actual listing agreement, right?
Yeah, this is a land presentation agreement. So
And this is
for
the other,
lease, yeah. It's for lease, so usually like this.
Oh, that's for lease? Okay.
525. The one things you need to be aware about the commission, because the commission usually is, it's for 5 years, it's not for 1 year.
Correct, and this is the other one, this is the sale agreement then?
Sale agreement.
Right. So,
They are similar to residential actually, like just,
Yeah.
the different is like.
but you gotta fill in the correct information.
Yeah.
Did you bring in the actual listing form as well that you have to fill out or not?
The MLS data sheet?
Yeah.
No, I don't have it.
Because that's really what you have to go through and get it correct, okay? On any commercial property. Just like you're supposed to get it correct for listing a residential house for sale.
Right.
What are some of the main things that a commercial lease or buyer is looking for in a commercial space? Like, let's talk about electrical panels, like that kind of thing.
Well, first of all, you gotta screen your client as a potential buyer, exactly what they're looking for, okay? So you've gotta ask them a whole bunch of questions, etc., besides how much money he has and what he wants to buy, price-wise, etc. However, if it's a retail commercial space, for example, you've gotta have, from the listing agent, you gotta have all the, you have to have, you should have on the listing, that sets out all the details of the income and expenses of the retail
Portion.
property that your client's looking to buy. And, I mean, I heard that, you really have to go through the commercial listing and explain it to your client. Without going into all the details, but I mean, you gotta know the rental rates, you gotta know the TMI, et cetera, you gotta know the square footage, you gotta know the, voltage, et cetera, you gotta know, all the rest of that stuff, the layouts, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
what the use is, so that you understand.
The specific use from the zoning
What kind
by.
of voltage they need and.
Yes, and in the listing agreement from the listing agent, they should have the information of what use is allowed in that retail commercial space.
Which was my last question. Where can I find the permitted use when I have a client?
When can you find?
The permitted use.
You can go to the zoning bylaw. City of Toronto zoning bylaw is absolutely terrible to go through it. City of Mississauga, their zoning bylaw is so well laid out. Ellie's gone on there many times for me, and it's so easy to find zoning and use, etc., etc.
At the same time, you need to check with the landlord, because it was like, yes, zoning permit like to do an automotive, but the landlord, they said no. I don't want to see it, so.
Well, yes, even though it may be allowed, the landlord may say, no, I don't want that type of use in my premises. That's quite possible. Yeah, that has happened before, right, Ellie?
Yeah,
Many times.
many
Yeah.
times, yeah.
Yeah.
Something to mention is at the office, I was looking yesterday for forms, so we do have an offer to lease prep form, right? But they should always consult if you're not used to doing commercial leases
Yeah,
to check with, they can always approach you, right, Terry?
sure.
For assistance. And
They
we
can
do
call
have
me or- yeah.
a prep form that would allow you to at least
Yeah.
put together some information.
To list the property you're talking about?
Yeah, to
Yeah.
list the property,
Yeah.
or to put an offer, more on the tenant side, to put an offer for particular
Use.
use.
Yeah.
Changing a little of the topics, I have some terminology that maybe you can just tell us about. I don't know how we're doing time there. You still have time? Or should not pay attention, but anyway. Some of this terminology like base rate. Base rates, we could talk about some of the terminology,
Yeah.
additional ratings,
Yeah.
base rents.
Yeah. On commercial retail, for example, and also in office and in industrial, but sometimes it differs. You have the rental rate per square foot per annum that the landlord is asking. So let's say it's $20 a square foot net. So you take the square footage of the retail space times 20, which will give you the annual amount of money you'll have to pay divided by 12. It gives you the net rental rate on the space per month. And then you also have what they call TMI, which is taxes, maintenance, and insurance. So a prorated amount per month, you'll have the taxes per square foot per annum, you'll have the maintenance, and you'll have the insurance. So you add those to the net rental rate, that will give you the total rental rate per square foot for the retail commercial space, okay? So that's the simple way to explain it.
What about, can you talk a little bit, without going too much into detail, about cap rates?
Okay, capitalization rates, all right? Today, let's, investment properties, let's use that and just say industrial, commercial, office, any income producing property. Cap rates today are probably in the range of 3 to 5%, Ellie?
3 is very low, like 5 is
Okay, 5.
Depends on the area.
Depends on, in the area within, it depends on also the quality of the tenant that's in there, or tenants, and length of time of the existing lease in place, okay? So you could have a 5 cap today, but the tenant's lease is up tomorrow, so what do? Right to renew at a higher rate per square foot per annum, that would give you a higher cap rate, all right? Most commercial leases today are running anywhere 3 to 5 years. Some are longer, but they have what they call stepped up rates, so the rate per square foot per annum may go up every year, or it may be locked in for 5 years. So you have to look at those numbers if you have an investor that's looking to buy a commercial property and he wants a 10% return on his invested capital, which is probably very high today. You're not going to see it, but as Ellie says, the rates are 5%.
Yeah, 5%.
Roughly today. When you get out of town, you may get higher cap rates, but maybe 5% is the common rate for the greater GTA, I guess.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they don't go up in value as much as the ones in the better areas or more downtown areas. So it's a give and take.
It's a give and take, yeah. I think you gotta look at each property individually and look at quality of the tenant, quality of the building, net cash flow of the tenant, et cetera, of the building that the tenant is leasing. If it's commercial and then residential above, and you have turnover with residential, then you gotta watch that cap rate. You gotta look at the retail commercial first, and then consider the residential income second.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
about that, or do you wanna go through all of
No,
those?
no, no.
Okay, so there's a building that I'm aware of that, has restaurants in the, main level and then 4 residential units up top.
Mhm.
It's up for sale right now. They actually put it on MLS. Maybe one of the things that hasn't been mentioned, I'll just mention, is that a lot of commercial properties don't go on MLS. They first get spun around by contacts and stuff like that.
Correct.
And
Agreed.
then if they don't sell at that point, then it goes on MLS.
Yes.
Which I still think it's an unfortunate situation because it doesn't give everybody the same opportunities, but that is how commercial works.
Yes.
Having said that, this particular building is now on MLS, but it's at 0, like it's like
Zero
$1
cap.
or no,
No.
it's listed for like $1.
Yeah.
So they actually shared with me all of their finances. They have a lease in place for another 3 years, paying $16,000 a month. They for one of the restaurants. They have another lease in place for another 2 years, paying $6,000 a month, and then they have the rentals upstairs.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, you figure out how much your client should put the offer on for this building. So what I did was I calculated a cap rate from the NOI,
Yes,
net operating income,
Yep,
and
good for you.
figured out
Yeah.
what the value would be based on that.
Yeah.
So depending on if I'm doing a cap rate of 3% versus 5%, it's a big difference.
yes it is.
So we're looking at either like 9 million or 7 million.
Yeah.
So,
And you're acting on behalf of a potential
buyer,
buyer,
yeah.
right? So I would go in with a 5 cap and see what happens at the lower price. Yeah.
of course. However, my question to you would be another way to assert value could be square footage amount in the area. Another value is looking at comps that are similar to that.
Agreed.
So those were the three ways that I was looking at evaluating this property.
I do exactly the same thing.
Okay, is there anything else I'm missing?
No,
Okay,
you've done a great job. That's good comparable. The only thing you gotta look at is restaurant use. Lot of restaurants within the first year or second year, okay, depending on the covenant of the restaurateur, okay, go out of business. So all I'm suggesting to you is your buyer an alternative use 2 years from now when that lease comes up for renewal. If the restaurant is not doing well and they're just getting by, as a lot of restaurants are today,
especially paying that kind of rent, which is ridiculous.
big numbers, what is the potential of doing that space to other retail commercial use?
It's
Okay?
in a high density restaurant area.
Okay.
They get so many clients.
All right, so
So
The restaurant's
it'll
successful.
probably never change usage.
Yes.
It may
Okay.
change
Yeah.
tenancy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll change usage.
and you know what about the tenants in the residential? Have they been there for some time and
The tenants, that I don't know.
you don't know?
Yeah.
Something you should ask.
Yeah,
Always good to ask.
yeah,
If the listing agent doesn't want to give the information to you,
yeah. Oh, no, I know how much they're paying. I just don't know how long they've been there or
Right.
what kind of, if
Yeah.
they're month to month or whatever.
they're month to month or they're under
Yeah.
a 1-year lease agreement, et cetera.
But I got
Okay.
all the information for the commercial portion of it.
Yeah, okay.
And then one of them has the right to renew another 5 years. So,
At a rent to be negotiated?
yes.
Okay,
Rent
that's
to be
good.
negotiated.
That's
And
always good.
they are, it's also incredible how much every year it increases by a large number as well.
So there's a great upside to
A
the property.
great upside to the
Okay.
property.
And it may only sell for a 3 cap
Yeah,
because of the upside.
exactly.
But you're acting on behalf of your buyer,
Buyer.
so you want to try and get the best possible
Exactly.
deal for your buyer.
Yeah.
So the 5 cap is probably what I would go in and offer and see what happens.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Good question.
Okay, maybe just a few more terms.
Yes.
What about due diligence and escalation clauses?
Well, due diligence, I would say every agent acting on behalf of a buyer wants to protect their buyer and would have a due diligence period for the buyer and his solicitor and his accountant, whoever it may be, and the agent involved to go over all the documentation. So you could have anything from a 48-hour to a 10-day due diligence period to protect your buyer. That's what I would suggest. When you're into major properties, i.e. you're gonna buy a high-rise apartment building with 100 units in it, the due diligence period could go longer, it's 30, 60 days to get all the documentation, so your buyer would be satisfied with all the income and expenses, etc. What was the other part?
Escalation clauses.
Every retail commercial property probably has different escalation clauses. You don't have it in residential rental properties, but the escalation clauses, it would be part of the lease agreement that you would get once you have a deal signed, sealed, and delivered, and you have this due diligence period, then you should get copies of the retail commercial lease agreement so that you and your client and his accountant and lawyers can go through all the documentation. And if they're not satisfied with the way it's written or signed and sealed, they can drop the deal.
Terry, when you're acting on behalf of a tenant for a lease of a space,
Retail?
yes,
Okay,
what is the typical escalation percentage?
it varies,
It varies
Yeah.
too much, right?
yeah.
And it's based on,
The market, supposedly.
yeah, the future market.
The future market, correct.
Yeah, so it really is just something you offer and then see what happens
See
when
what
you're
happens.
acting on behalf of a
Yeah,
tenant.
well, years ago, there were much longer leases in place. There was 10, 20-year leases.
Yeah,
Today, most retail commercial,
Five.
it's 5 max,
five,
With
then
right-
another five to
yeah,
renew.
and escalation and all the rest.
Escalation.
Very common.
Yeah. And then when you renew after the 5 years, can you really jump on a totally different, can you go double the price? Not that you should,
No,
but
but I mean, the landlord can ask anything.
you can ask anything, because it's so different from the residential lease.
Exactly.
Right?
Then it's up to
Because then the
the,
contract is over and then you're actually renegotiating another 5-year
Yeah.
clean
exactly.
based on that market at
The-
that
Whatever the
time.
market is in the area,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You know your commercial real estate really well. Sorry, go ahead, Hillary, anything else?
I don't know anybody else wants to ask. What about gross leases versus net leases? Do you find them more, they're all net in today's market?
99% are all net leases because of changes with taxes, maintenance, insurance, that your taxes change every year, so the burden is on the tenant to pay that increase. The landlord is doing a deal based on the rental rate for the square footage of the space that they own, that they have leased to that third party tenant, and everything else is net. The landlord is not responsible for hardly anything anymore. The tenant has to pay it all. And that's very common.
So everybody should be jumping onto buying something commercial.
Well,
You
if
just
you,
need to get the financing.
You just gotta get the finance.
Financing is the issue, right?
I agree 100%, yes, exactly. Now, if you're sitting with a few mil in the bank and you wanna go out and buy a retail commercial plaza, and you've got great tenants, and they're all got leases in place, etc., you're gonna know what your income is for the next 2 to 5 years, etc. The market right now, what I've seen since our quasi-recession, and the increase in the rental rates, the interest rates today, a lot of guys are just sitting back and waiting for stuff to come in the market that they can steal.
They've
Where
been waiting-
landlords are in
They've
trouble.
been waiting for a while though, if they're
Yeah, I
not
know.
hopping soon, I think, I don't know.
I don't, you
What
know
do you
what?
think? Do you think it's gonna continue to decrease? Do you think that
Well, it
what
depends.
those
Well,
people are waiting in the
Supposedly,
sidelines?
the Bank of Canada rate's not gonna change this week, which is, comes out tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
So that might be a positive thing for our market in general,
Yeah,
okay? If it goes up.
for
a half-
sellers,
Yeah,
positive for sellers.
yes, if it goes up a quarter to half a point, then it's great for the buyers.
For those buyers that have been sitting around
And
forever now.
have the money in the bank,
Yeah,
you know.
Well, even the big banks are changing a little bit in terms of commercial financing, because we're trying to get RBC to finance some stuff, and what the wealth manager was saying, it's because of the whole problem with the housing market here, they kind of want to not get away, but find another things that they can invest on
Yeah,
that would be productive, right?
yeah,
So I think that will change a little bit in the future, even for the big banks.
Yeah.
Because-
Well, now that TD is being checked on.
Yeah, that's a big,
but it's just not the banks. There's a lot of major financial institutions sitting out there with all kinds of money that may want to invest with a buyer today. There's all the REITs out there today, okay, real estate and
Yeah.
investment trusts, okay? They got billions of dollars sitting. They're looking to buy properties, okay? There's huge competition out there in the marketplace. There's all kinds of money out there ready to buy. They just want to steal it. That's what's happening today. You gotta get, if you're dealing with some of these big income companies that have huge assets and lots of money, they want it their way, not the way what the seller wants.
Or the highway.
Or the highway, exactly. So, there's not a lot of really good investment properties out in the marketplace for sale that I've seen
But the
recently.
question is, do you, like, given the market, what's happened so far up until now, and people are still waiting, do you think the waiting is going to garnish what they're looking for?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
I think it'll have a big, major, yeah.
I think in the
I
third
mean,
quarter.
right now, over a week ago, Charles Schwab is now on the verge of collapse. There's more European banks are on the verge of collapse.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so once that hits, we're gonna start to feel it here.
So you think that the worst is yet to come?
Well,
I do.
we're just starting.
I do.
You
I
do
think
as
there's
well,
gonna-
eh?
I'd love us
Like,
to-
we're talking specifically Toronto
Matter of
market.
fact,
Which is-
they're talking now that China may file for bankruptcy.
I would love.
Yeah, but I don't care about
No,
China.
no,
I
it
care
does,
about what
because it's our-
happens in Toronto
Yeah, but
because
their-
that's my
yeah, but their
market.
money- Yeah, but their money is supporting our properties. And
Well,
if they go out of
indirectly,
business-
yeah.
Indirectly, they are.
Yeah, okay.
They're supporting the American dollar. If they go out of
Even
business,
supply chain, if
But that's
China
the
goes down,
international finance, that's not
inflation's
the
gonna
local.
be skyrocket, because we're not gonna produce what they can produce for the same price. That's never gonna happen.
Agreed.
And we're talking about bringing manufacture back to Canada and US, which is a good thing, but people need to realize that everything's gonna be expensive. We're not
Agreed.
gonna get inflation down to 2-3%, never.
well, no, but that's the government thing. That's their program. It's not reality.
Well,
Inflation rate now is running at 15%,
Yeah, I
not the
know.
6% that
I-
they say it is.
Well, I know that,
yeah.
yeah.
But now you see like the state, they said China is no longer a growing country. It's now a first world country.
Yes.
The problem
This
is
is
they don't
what
have
they
young
treat
people.
it now, because if he will deal with it as a growing country, it has different regulation, but now they say no, it's no more. Because they wanna raise also like the customs on them and many stuff, so.
Yeah, back to commercial real estate. There's very few great properties out there for sale for investment today.
Yeah, and
It's
we're running
scarce.
out of space to,
Yes.
to purchase. So
Agreed.
these guys who are waiting that want to invest in Toronto and the greater GTA, like, yeah, go invest somewhere else. But I'm talking Toronto market.
I
don't
understand.
think that there's going to be a, because of lack of property,
lack of product.
land,
Yes.
lack of product.
Yep.
For the longest time, we've been talking about this since I started here 10 years ago. There's
Yes.
been lack of property.
Yep.
And then the fact that compared to the rest of many geographical areas where people can invest their money, we're relatively safe, both politically, economically. So it makes sense if you want to invest in it here.
Yeah.
That it's not like I don't see it crashing for them to say, oh, I'm gonna get it for a steal. Maybe it'll come down.
I didn't
a
say
little.
crash like,
No, I'm not, I know you're not saying that, but
79,
that there are
80,
people waiting
89,
in
90,
the.
the recession that hit here, and the market did crash at that time. But because there's a scarcity of good investment product out there available for sale, and if we go into a deeper recession, there's all kinds of money out there looking to steal properties. Trust me, I've talked to my clients and they're ready to go,
But I
but they
agree.
want to steal.
I know, but my question is, do you think that opportunity to steal will occur?
Yes,
You do?
it's coming. Yep.
I don't believe it.
Well, I do. Okay, we can agree to differ, that's,
No,
you know,
100%, I love that, I
Yeah.
love debate
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's
But
for
based-
commercial, not residential.
Because
I'm talking, well, I'm talking,
what about COVID-19? Was there like a major effect that caused something to move or not?
no, in the residential side, not so
Yeah.
much in the commercial, not really. Except when the COVID hit and everybody got to work out of their house,
Yeah,
I mean,
office
there's
space
a
is
glut
what's
of
been affected.
vacant office space.
Restaurants in
Nobody
downtown
wants
are
to,
like-
nobody want, yes, that's another
Those
good example.
houses-
Nobody wants to touch office space today.
If the federal government hadn't actually provided stimulus for rent, then perhaps it would have crashed completely.
Yes, agreed. Yep,
And we could have been in that.
yeah. We're in a market right now that's sort of wavy.
It's a rolling recession,
Thank you, that's a great word, yes.
It's a what?
rolling recession.
Rolling recession. Well, I like that. Well done. Yeah, and I don't. My personal feeling, if my wealthy, sophisticated buyers, whether it's land or investment properties, are saying, Terry, we're waiting for some good deals.
I know they are,
Don't
I've heard
bug-
that too, but I
Don't
think
bug,
they're
you got a
fooling
power,
themselves.
you got a power sale somewhere and it looks, and the numbers work, etc.
The
Call.
problem is,
Call me.
at least for residential, the banks are getting bailed out now and say, okay, increase your mortgage to 40, 45 years. Until they do that, you're not gonna see a float in the market. And the other problem is, our economy is based on immigration. As long as you keep them
No,
coming.
it's not based on immigration,
It is.
it's based on people who have money immigration, not based on immigration.
Or
If you get-
not,
because you get a lot
because
of debt-
people,
you
the
get a lot
young
of-
people coming out is
No,
gonna pay
if
for
you
your
get a lot-
retirement.
No, if you get a lot of deadbeats, they're not gonna pay you for retirement.
Of course they will. They,
Well,
they're gonna
Most of the
work
people
job.
that are
They're gonna be
coming in
working
are
They're gonna go on
educated,
welfare,
have
who
money.
cares?
Yeah, some
There
are,
are not
There are a
all-
lot of
not all of them.
Not all of them.
A lot of them are though, because of the immigration rules.
Thank you very much. to
Thank you very
everybody
much.
that came, and
Yes.
we will continue
You know
that
what,
series
this
of
was a
commercial.
great idea, we should do it again, because it's just not talking about, commercial real estate, is listening to the rest of you around the table here. I'm learning something as well, okay? Cause you have different opinions and different ideas and different, about the marketplace and what's happening out there, and it's good to converse and get together every so often to discuss it, and not just be a one-on person saying, well, this is what I think it is. So I appreciate your involvement, guys, thank you.
Thank
And we
you.
appreciate you, Terry.
Oh, thank
have
you.
so much experience.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Thank you.
Alright.
I thought maybe, oh, you can turn it off.